Welcome everybody. In this video we are going to be going over another variation for shoulder internal rotation, capsule specific work. So this is like a sleeper stretch variation. Most of you are probably fairly familiar with this exercise at this point, especially if you've been following me for a while. If this is your first time seeing this, I recommend you play with some of the standing variations of this exercise first before progressing to this floor version. If you're somebody who has fairly mobile, healthy knees, fairly mobile, healthy hips, and you're in a pretty good shape already, you're just trying to fine-tune some things, this is probably a great setup for you. If you're more in the pain population, you're more in the rehab population, your body's a little bit beat up and you're kind of dealing with some shit, let's back away from this version and go to the standing variation. So we're going to get on the ground in this collapsed kneeling position. You really only need one yoga block. You may possibly want to grab a couple extras depending on if it's difficult to sit back in your butt. For some people, being in the position we will be in is not necessarily a big deal. However, sometimes it can start to fatigue the knees and the quads a little bit, or the hips. So if just in case if you need to, you can put a yoga block underneath your butt here as you sit back on it to lift some weight up. You probably need to keep it a little bit more vertical. It's kind of like a little chair for your butt. Just takes a little bit of pressure off the lower extremity while you focus on top. I'm going to get that out of the picture for me, and I will just need one yoga block to maximize the stretch of my shoulder. So we're going to start on the ground here. I'm going to scoot forward a little bit. My left shoulder is going to be the target arm here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right hand, I'm going to grab my left wrist, and I'm going to spin my arm so my elbow spins on the ground until I create a stretch in my left shoulder joint, capsule, rotator cuff stuff. It should feel like a stretch. It should not feel like anything is pinchy, nasty, or painful. We will push until we feel our stretch, and then once we have that stretch position, that's where the yoga block comes in. And we can take this yoga block and we can wedge it on top of our wrist, and that will give us a more comfortable way of sitting in this stretch. I like this position a lot because it allows us to drop some weight onto the humerus to get a little bit more posterior drive into the shoulder capsule, which gives us a little bit different kind of stretch on the tissue. You will sit in this stretch for as little as 30 seconds, but ideally closer to 1 to 2 minutes. If not longer, if you can tolerate it. Once we've sat in this stretch for the recommended duration or the longest duration you can tolerate, we will then begin to go through our PAILs and rails contractions. So the PAILs contraction is going to be first producing a radiation. So we're going to sniff in some air. I'm going to pack the core with air. Then from here, I actually want you to exhale that air. So you sniff in air to build tension, and then you exhale to contract the ribs. Once you feel those ribs contract down, we're going to try to keep that bracing. I tend to like this more. Once we're in this bracing, now we will start to lock down even more. We're flexing both arms, both shoulders, both legs, and the core. And then we're going to funnel all this tension into driving a backhanded press against the yoga block. So this left arm is going to attempt to push against the yoga block, but the yoga block is going to block it. So we'll start that drive, that isometric ramp up at maybe 5% effort for our initial PAILs contraction. And then we will ramp that up to 10% to 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, so on and so forth, until we get to our safest, greatest effort. You should feel like you're working, but it should not ever be painful. You will hold your peak contraction for anywhere between 5 and 15 seconds. And then from here, to reverse the effort, I'm going to move the yoga block so you can see it. It's as if we are going to try to rotate to pull the arm farther away from the yoga block, but we're going to do so without allowing any scapular shifting or any shoulder shrug. So we're going to flex deep into the armpit, deep into the shoulder, deep into the scapula tissue, and we're going to flex hard to make this hand spin and come closer to our legs. And this should be a pretty hard effort right off the bat. This tissue is as short as it can get, so it's probably going to be really crampy. If it's pinchy or painful, there's a problem. We need to back off of that. Maybe just focus on PAILs contractions. But if you're good, you ramp up hard and you fight this effort for 5 to 15 seconds. I know I've been here for probably closer to 25 or 30 seconds at this point, but I just want to make sure you guys get what's going on. After the rails contraction, so PAILs you push into the block, rails you pull away from the block, you will then take a breath in, breath out, and then you will push onto your arm, and this should generate and give you more stretch stuff in your shoulder. So just from that, I think I just gained probably 15 degrees or so. Some of you will get massive openings after the first round of PAILs and rails. Some of you will get virtually nothing. You get what you get and you work with what you got and you just progress from there. So from here, we would repeat 2 to 3 more rounds of PAILs and rails. You make sure you maintain that stretch position entirely. You're always thinking about that rib cage relationship to the core, trying to tuck the ribs, core is tight. Even the glutes can be flexed. Everything is strong in that lower body. Remember, PAILs contraction, you take the target arm, which is my left arm here, and you rotate to push against the yoga block while the opposite hand is blocking. And then the rails contraction is you try to rotate actively and pull away from that yoga block, and that should be a hard, strong effort. And after each round of PAILs and rails, you relax for a moment and you see if you can progress deeper and deeper into your stretch. After that, we will go through axial rotations. You can stay here and you can go through a little bicep curl to lift the arm, and you can just spin the elbow on the ground. I recommend a pad for this one to keep it more comfortable. Or you can just sit up and we can go through from a bent arm or from a straight arm, whichever one matches your needs better, or whichever one feels better. So this is our all fours quadruped variation of the shoulder sleeper stretch. I can't take credit for this, I wish I could, but this setup came from a trainer and a physiotherapist named Alex Murphy, who's based out of Canada. Saskatchewan, I think, is where she's based out of. Tremendous practitioner, can't thank her enough for sharing this with the world, so we're able to use it, and I'm gonna build my own video here and give it to you guys. So I hope this works. I hope this checks the boxes for you. If it gives you trouble and you're a client of mine, please let me know. If you're just somebody who's exploring the internet and you find this, leave a comment on the video, leave a comment in the post you found this on, and let's see what we can possibly do to make this fit you better. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.